What's up, everybody? It's Keef from KeefKeys.com. Welcome to another episode of Behind the Mix. And on today, we have none other than a legend in my book. Someone who has been consistent. He has been on here before, and he's back again. We had to get this done. A lot of technical difficulties, but we finally got it done. Everybody, welcome AD from Anno Domini Beats. What's up, AD?
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be back and talk music production with you.
Yeah. So let's get right into it. So the last time we spoke was like 3 years ago. 3 years ago when we did the interview. And I actually listened to the interview again, and a lot has changed since that time. You got married.
I did indeed.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And a bunch of other things that you've happened, but that has happened. So to the three people who probably don't know who you are, can you give us a brief story of who you are?
Sure, man. Yeah, so I go by Anno Domini. I'm the CEO of the multi-platinum Anno Domini Nation music production team. We make beats for people like 50 Cent, Snoop Dogg, Rick Ross, Wu-Tang Clan, and big companies like Coca-Cola, Ford, NBA, NFL. And we've been in the game for about 15 years now. We were one of the pioneers of beat licensing back in the day. And aside from Anno Domini Nation, I'm also the CEO of Modern Producers, which is a software company for producers. We sell tools and kits and basically everything you need to make the hottest beats at modernproducers.com. So that's me in a nutshell.
All right, cool. So I'm glad you mentioned Modern Producers as well. If anyone hasn't visited the site, please go on there and visit. For all you producers, all you drum kits, all the drum kits on there, loop packs, MIDI packs. I actually got quite a few things from there. I actually have.
Nice, I like that.
I actually got quite a few. There's so many stores out there. But I have quite a few things from modernproducers.com. So if you haven't visited there yet, there's a link in the description below. You can click that link and go get yourself something for your next beats. All right. So, I kind of wanted to talk to you, AD, about certain things. Like you said, that you were kind of like the pioneer, one of the pioneers of the beat licensing industry inside the music producer world. And so you have been in the game for quite some time. And you have worked with many independent artists as well as artists who are signed in the industry, as well as large companies as well. And one of the questions that I have for you is kind of like, is there a big change in the way how we kind of do business in relationship wise between the producer and the artist from back then to the way we do it now? Or is it relatively the same?
So the basic process is the same, but what's changed a lot since back then is obviously everyone's catching on to the online beat game, so there's way more competition out there. Which means that if you're a new producer getting into the game, you need to work and do that extra little bit of work to basically stand out from the crowd. And some of the ways that producers are doing that, actually funny enough, is they're going back from, back in the day, there would be this one-on-one relationship between the producer and the artist. And then that changed to kind of this mass model of just putting your beats out there and reaching a huge audience through the internet. And now actually a lot of new producers coming in, they're going back into the one-on-one thing by actually like hitting up artists directly on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook and stuff like that, and making their first sales by actually making that initial relationship. You know what I mean? So obviously, the fact that there's so much more competition out there means you need to focus a little more and work a little harder to get those initial sales and get things rolling.
Okay, so I'm glad you kind of said what you said. I kind of fell into that path myself without actually having someone tell me that, this actually was going on. And I started to understand that people are the main concern in any business relationship. but as far as the music industry goes as well. And what I mean by that is I feel like because the industry has been so oversaturated now with music producers, and because anything is online now, everything to get high quality beats, you basically can do that for free now one way or another. And because the industry is so saturated, it's kind of like you lose the personal one-on-one touch, conversation, feeling that you used to get, in a business relationship, not even just dealing with artists and producers. And one thing that I started doing now myself has kind of, been more personal. In a lot of inboxes now, sliding in a lot of DMs on a lot of artists just to have a personal relationship with them, in order to build, just build that artist producer relationship and hopefully get some music done. Um, Now the question I have in that though is because we can spend hours on hours, and sometimes I do, contacting new artists, working with new artists personally, and not necessarily so concerned about advertising so much or doing things that are kind of out of my hands, like robotic type things.
Yep.
But we know that time is a commodity, and there's only so much you can do, and is and the list is kind of finite to how many artists in a day you can actually connect with. Um, so on the level that Anno Domini is on, and how large the company is, how does that personal relationship actually work? Um, I doubt all the producers are kind of like, a lot of the producers now who can just sit, and spend all day contacting random people or everybody, lottie dottie, everybody. But how does that actually work for a larger business of producers to actually be personal with these artists?
Yeah, so if you're a new producer starting out, there's nothing wrong with hitting up an artist and making a one-on-one conversation turn into a relationship. Obviously, if you're a big business, like you say, time is a commodity that few of us can afford to spend a whole lot on. And you want to obviously move fast and reach a big audience as much as possible. So the way that a lot of the big companies have been doing it, us included, is actually transferring from this kind of mass marketing mentality to a mass customization mentality. And what I mean by that is that you're still contacting multiple people, but you're making them feel like they're part of the community and almost like you're addressing them personally. And the way to do that, for example, is by growing an email list and actually writing to them, not as a business, not as Anno Domini Productions, but as myself. So I always send out like a regular email. I address the artist directly. I say, hey, what's up? And, I just give them that personal touch and make it feel like I'm actually talking to them. Another way to do that is, I don't know if you're familiar with messenger bot marketing. Obviously, Facebook Messenger is kind of the hot topic in marketing. Never mind just beat selling, but marketing, period. So a lot of the top producers are using Messenger marketing in order to actually target people on Facebook and message them. And again, you just want to keep it colloquial. You want to keep it like a conversation. That's what people respond to nowadays. They don't want sort of a mass marketing newsletter. They want to be felt like they're being addressed personally. So you can obviously change your marketing messages, make it sound like you're actually talking and interacting with them. So then even though you're not actually taking the time to message every single artist individually, you still make them feel wanted and special and forging that relationship in more of like a one-on-one way, but on a mass level. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because even in my email list, what I tend to do is to start off conversations as, hey, or yo, I just wanted to tell you, just a conversation, not necessarily me announcing something or promoting anything. And a lot of times I use plain text like I would in a text message, not add a whole bunch of pictures, links, buttons, none of that. Just kind of like a text, like I'm sending it to you directly, but really I'm sending it to everybody. And it's funny that you said that because today, I think I sent out, was it today? Yesterday. Yesterday I sent out one email just mentioning like a new instrumental that I had uploaded, and it had a picture in there of the instrumental. But you can tell as soon as I posted that up, I had like so many opt outs because I posted one picture. So it's so crazy how nowadays it's like artists are actually feeding and wanting that personal relationship, and they don't want a business necessarily emailing them about what that business has going on, but kind of like, hey, I just want to talk to you because
Yeah,
you've been on my mind. So, so what's going on?
right.
So it's pretty ironic that you said that, that even large businesses are still doing that.
For sure. You got to understand, like, these artists, they've probably been bombarded with marketing messages for the past 10 years by producers. So they're just starting to zone out and just mark that stuff as spam. They're not even listening to what you have to say unless they feel like you're actually having a conversation with them. So if you're just sending out a mass message that just says, we just released a new beat, you can purchase it here, artists are probably going to unsubscribe or they're going to delete that message right away. Whereas if you send out something that's valuable and that sounds colloquial, like you're talking to them, like, "Hey, what's up? I just posted this new beat. Can I get your feedback on it? What do you think?" That kind of thing. It's much more likely to get them to actually click on the link, check out the beat, possibly even buy it somewhere down the line.
Okay, cool. So, so now that we're off that, I saw recently that you are going to be one of the speakers at AC3. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, sir. I'm actually going to be on the producer panel, and I'm going to be specifically talking about branding for producers. So it's pretty exciting. There's obviously a ton of big people there at A3C, people like RZA, Jermaine Dupri, Zaytoven, a bunch of people. Wyclef Jean is going to be there. So I think it'll be a great opportunity for me to meet people, but also for people to meet me and ask me questions. I've been posting videos for producers for the longest time. I've been, doing courses and I even have a producer training group and stuff like that. So it's always cool to actually interact with people face to face and give them the opportunity to ask me specific questions. And just get a couple of pages from the playbook.
So what exactly is A3C? Because obviously I said it wrong. And I know that, and I know that it's a conference for producers, artists, correct, and musicians,
It
or
is,
just
yeah. There's the artist side of things, and there's also the producer side of things, which is actually run by BeatStars. So they sponsor the producer part of A3C. Where you can
well, I don't
attend
know. See, I'm
such
on
as you
Arabic,
can
so
go to okay. Well, we'll keep that producers and stuff like that. There's also a festival. So for everyone who just wants to listen to dope music, there's a bunch of big artists. I think Wu-Tang Clan are headlining this year. So there's obviously that part of it too. And it's all going down, I believe, between the 3rd of October to the 7th of October in Atlanta. There's still tickets available if you want to get them.
and I saw that you were giving away some tickets as well.
Yeah, just to celebrate the fact that I'll be there, I'm actually giving away 2 free tickets. They're worth about $300 each, so it's pretty sweet. If anybody wants to grab those tickets, all you have to do is actually go to producerbundles.com. You just drop your email, and then I'll select 2 winners among the first 100 people who sign up.
So you said that you're going to be talking about branding. So let me ask a question because in the years that I've known you, like you just threw another website out there,
Mhm.
and in the years that I've known you, you haven't been content in one business, if I should say it like that. So as far as branding goes, you have shown to be someone who continues to brand yourself, and I wouldn't even say rebrand yourself, but somebody who brands yourself and adds another piece onto the bigger puzzle. So, in branding, what if you could give one big advice to an up and coming producer about branding? Exactly, what would that piece of advice be?
So here's the thing. Branding for a producer is kind of tricky because it's not like an artist who can go up on stage, they can interact with the fans, they can be seen, they get the radio interviews, they're on TV and stuff like that. As a producer, you're working more behind the scenes, right? So you don't necessarily have that one-on-one connection. And the way to brand yourself as a producer, there's a couple ways, but the main one is obviously through your sound. So you can brand yourself by having the kind of sound that people instantly recognize. For example, if you hear a Dr. Dre beat or you hear a DJ Mustard beat or something, you know instantly, right? And then what also helps, obviously, is having that tag in the beat, too. That's a great way to brand yourself, too. So as a producer, you just got to work a little harder because you almost need to have your music stand for itself. There's obviously social media. You can interact with people through there. But really, the big one is branding yourself sonically.
Okay, so out of all the forms of branding, you would say as a producer, the sound of your brand, in other words, is the most important piece?
I think that's the highest level that you should be striving for. If you get to that point where people are identifying your beats just from the first couple of bars, then you've nailed it. Obviously, that's easier said than done. But, once producers start uploading videos to SoundCloud and to YouTube with a Keef type beat, then you know you've made it.
Okay. So let me jump ship for a second. So I was listening to a podcast the other day. The podcast was between Curtis King Beats, so shout out to Curtis King, and Epic the Dawn. And one of the things that they had brought up on their podcast, and it was very good, by the way, very knowledgeable. One thing that they had brought up was the way how, like you said at the beginning, how the industry is kind of changing. And Epic the Dawn had brought up at one point that, at one point beats were a commodity, how it was so hard to even create an instrumental, create a beat back then, versus now that all you need is a phone. In other words, it's kind of everywhere. So people, it's not like a necessity. In other words, it's kind of out there as soon as you log on any website, anywhere, like that. So being that, and you touched on a little bit saying working hard, but being that the industry is saturated, everybody is a music producer now. That is the thing to do. And being so that everyone is a music producer, how does a music producer stand out in the midst of all of these new music producers? Because there's, the OGs in the game, kind of like, where you came in, who've been doing this for a very long time. And now you have that kid that just got his first laptop and that has FL Studio, and he's a producer as well. But the thing is that, these new producers actually sound good. For the most part, a lot of them sound good.
Yeah.
Thanks to software. But a lot of them sound good. So as a producer, how do you stand out? Now you said branding and everything else, but if we were to put, instrumentals in a pot, and then just pull them out randomly, how do you stand out as a producer? This might be more so of a personal question, but as producers, what do you think is the best way that you do stand out in the midst of all these other producers?
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, it's a tough question in a way, but there's two main ways that you stand out. One of the ways is by having a superior product. So either you're a great producer, you make better beats than the other people, and hopefully that's enough to distinguish yourself from the massive producers out there. The other thing you can do is to change the process or change the distribution. And what I mean is, instead of going up against all these other producers selling $29.99 licenses, why don't you come up with a novel way to reach the artist? For example, through a subscription program, or by putting together a beat bundle, or putting together a beat tape, or something like that. So instead of trying to win the game, why don't you change the game? Do you know what I'm saying? So there's just so many different and creative ways that you can actually monetize your music. You don't need to be the 20,000th producer with the Airbit page who's selling a non-exclusive license for $27 or whatever it is, try and just think outside the box and come up with new ways that you can connect to the audience, and that way you don't have to get into that rat race of throwing your beat into the melting pot, like you say.
Yeah, and it's ironic that you said that, because it seems to me like you and Epic the Don both have been doing this for a while, both at around the same time doing the same thing, and it's amazing how you both kind of touched on the same thing as far as changing the game. I like the way you put it. You said to change the game rather than try to win the game. And it seems though as now that kind of is the separation between those who know what to do in a situation like this, to kind of know to switch it up, versus a lot of new producers who are just getting in. They see the availability of artists being able to go to your website and just purchase a beat and just jump into the beat leasing game. So therefore, that's all they know. And they're not necessarily taught to think outside the box, or to think to actually change the game, because some of them don't even realize the game that they're actually playing. And a lot of them are just trying to keep up in certain ways versus switching it up. And Epic had said at one point in the podcast how he lumped all of his beats into one product and then sold it just like that for one price. Now that's a very bold move, and history would show that probably should trust him in that move. But that just goes to show you how once again even he thought to change up the game and not necessarily to play the game. So with that being said, what's the next move? Because we have Epic, put all his beats into one product. You just mentioned a beat tape. What are some other things that producers can do to kind of service the artist? Because truth be told, without the actual artist, we are nothing, and we can act like we're anything, but without those artists, we are nothing. So what are some things that we can actually do to switch it up, that you think that we can accommodate more of the artist than, just what we're traditionally known to?
Well, first of all, I need to say that I don't agree with you entirely, because I feel like even without the artists, producers in their own right have a lot of ways to monetize what they do and be successful. For example, if you're a producer, you can work with TV companies, you can work with advertisers, you can work with other producers, you can create products for producers, you can put together sound kits, you can put together VSTs and stuff like that. So I think a lot of producers are just in that mindset where the only way I can make money is by licensing my beats to an artist. And that's like the start and the end of it all. But there's an infinite amount of ways that you can monetize your music production craft. So you just have to start thinking about some of those things, brainstorming, finding some ways that let you stand out, maybe getting into some different areas where there's not as much competition, where you're literally the industry leader or among the first people doing it. So going back to the artist thing, though, I've been doing this for like 4 or 5 years now. The whole like beat package sale, doing sales funnels, doing one-off sales and things like that. Some producers are starting to catch up, like the last 2 or 3 years or something like that. Obviously, Epic, the Don you mentioned, Legion as well. He started doing that, which is cool, by the way. I don't mind that stuff at all. I enjoy actually seeing other producers catch on and then changing the game. And maybe just doing a little something to move the industry forward, you know what I mean? So that's exciting to me too. Plus, the more competition you get, the more incentive that is to keep reinventing things and doing new things, right? So aside from the one-off sales, like you said, Epic, he put together all his beats in a big package. You can do that. You can also, for example, put together an instrumental album and do a big release around that, almost like an artist launching a new album. You can have a whole backstory that you create. You can have like videos explaining why you're putting together this beat album, and make like a huge release out of it. Make it something special, and then put together some exclusive unreleased beats or something that's going to get your audience hyped up. Another thing you can do is a subscription system. Subscriptions are kind of like a hot topic in internet marketing right now, because obviously, especially as a producer, where I'm sure you know this too, sometimes money is sporadic. You might have a month where you're making thousands, and then another month you're making barely anything. So the nice thing about a subscription is that you know in advance I'm going to be making at least this much money because I have like 50 artists subscribed to my list for $20 a month or whatever it is. So it kind of gives you some planning security and financial stability, which is always good. And with a subscription, you can get creative too. You can give away every new beat that you create to people who are subscribed and paying a monthly fee. You can let them choose 5 beats a month. You can even throw in some mixing and mastering packages. You can give them promotion, anything to make it more attractive for the artist. So there's hundreds of different types of ways that you can set that up. Some other ways to kind of get creative with it is launching a sale. And what I do often is I actually do sales funnels where you basically build up to this big release. It can be like a 90-day process or something where you're getting people amped up. Something big is happening. I'm launching this huge product. These really exclusive, unreleased beats. And then you start getting your audience pumped up, and then you can, for example, put together a big package of beats, or you can put together all the beats you released in the last year, or maybe things that you're going to be releasing in the months to come, whatever it is. Again, you can just get creative. And with these sales funnels things, the cool thing is that you can also offer upgrades and things like that. So it's not just a one-off sale. It's not like you're giving away all your beats in one go and that's the end of the relationship with the artist, but you can offer them upgrades. For example, for like another $100, you can also get my beats from 2016 or stuff like that, So it's like a never-ending cycle of creative ways that you can basically use your music productions to earn yourself money. That's not necessarily just licensing one-off beats.
Cool. So let me ask you a question that has not necessarily anything to do with the licensing of beats. But if someone, because you have been someone who has been fortunate to work with different well-known artists and companies as well. If there's an artist out there who still wants to shoot their shot at, as far as getting with one of these companies or one of these large artists, what would be the one piece of advice that you would give them?
Yeah, I mean, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And I actually salute artists who want to work with the big artists, work with the big companies. I think there's a time and a place for that, and I think that's cool. As you mentioned, I've worked with a bunch of big artists and companies too. What frustrates me sometimes working with the majors is that they can keep you waiting for months, if not years on end. They'll pick your hottest beats and then they'll let you know 2 years later that actually they decided not to use any of them. So it's super frustrating to me personally. That being said, if you want to work with a major artist, the one tip I always give people is don't try and reach out to the artist directly because they're super busy people. They probably don't even check their social media and stuff like that, very rarely anyway. And you'll just get lost amongst thousands of other people trying to hit them up to work and stuff like that. So the way to do it really is to try and network with their surrounding entourage, so to speak, with their A&Rs, with their managers. They're much more receptive and open, so you want to research those people. You want to hit them up, email them, be courteous, go to the shows and try and speak to them. And once you network with those people and you send them beats, they're going to forward them to the artist for you. And they're much more easy to reach and much more easy to network with than the artist directly.
Cool. So let me just ask you one last question, and we can jump off here because we've been on here for a little bit. Going forward from AD and Anno Domini, what do we expect to see? Because you have multiple companies and multiple domain names and everything. You threw out another one tonight. I'm just like, okay, I gotta check that one out. So what do we expect from here on out? I remember the last time we spoke, you had mentioned modern producers, and then you had mentioned something else. You had something else in the works that you couldn't say. And I don't know if you still can say that or not, or if you still working on that thing. But what are some other things that we can expect from you from here on out?
Yeah, I mean, I like to stay busy, I like trying new things. I like being an entrepreneur and setting up new businesses. So I never like standing still and resting on my laurels. I like just experimenting and pushing things, pushing the envelope. For me, I mean, one of the things that we set up recently that's been going really well is our artist development program called the Inner Circle. And it's exactly the kind of thing I was talking to you about earlier. It's actually a subscription where artists, they join up for a monthly fee. They get our beats. They get access to a member group where they get placement opportunities. They get training videos from me on everything from how to get a record deal to how to record, how to set up your mixing, how to promote yourself and stuff like that. So it's like the complete 360 package for artists. And really it helps them because sometimes the beginning and the end of the relationship and the transaction between the producer and the artist is just the sale of the beat. But then obviously once they have the beat, once they record their song, sometimes they just don't know what to do with it. So you need to give them a support system to get their song out there. You can help them promote it. You can show them how to get it on the radio and stuff like that. So that's kind of the idea behind the Inner Circle. And then you mentioned, obviously, we have Modern Producers, which is our producer website. And we have the same kind of thing for our producers as well. We have the Platinum Circle, which is like a producer development group. Almost the same concept. Instead of getting a monthly beats package, they get a monthly package of kits. It's actually a crazy low price, like for $29.99. I think they get 30 kits worth like $1,000 a month. So we always try and over deliver and make the producers and the artists super happy. I really believe in that concept of offering massive value, and you'll definitely reap the rewards in turn too. So it's kind of like a win-win situation, you know? And for the producers, we offer them placement opportunities, beat sale opportunities. We have our own label where we distribute their beats for sale and help them out that way. So both of those subscription systems have actually been growing really well, keeping me really busy. But it's also really fun to be able to, you know, again, have that more personal touch with the artists and with the producers and actually help them out. And, you know, we're fortunate enough to have actually seen a bunch of producers, especially, get some major placements for people like Chris Brown and stuff like that. And one guy had a beat recently featured at the Oakland Raiders stadium during an NFL game. That came through our producer group, stuff like that. And for the artists too, we actually had one guy, he just booked a national tour through a contact he made through the group and stuff like that. So those are the kind of stories that motivate me, and they're just really, it's just awesome to see a new generation of producers and artists, you know, build momentum and help them on their way.
Wow, man. Well, listen, I want to thank you so much for your time tonight. I want to thank you for everything that you have shown and everything that you had told us to all the many producers and artists out there. So if anybody needs to find you, where can they find you at?
Preferably nowhere. I'm a shadow. No, you can find me everywhere online. AnnoDominiNation.com is the website. Of course, hit me up through my email, info@AnnoDominiNation.com. I'm always happy to chat with producers and artists. So that's probably the best way to reach out to me. You can also hit me up on Instagram at Anno Domini Beats, or on Twitter, the same handle.
Cool, and I will definitely make sure every link that you just said is in the description below. And to anybody else out there, once again, I am Keef Keyz, KeefKeyz.com. Click this video, subscribe for more videos, just like this one. Check the link below, because there's free beats in the link if you need them. And we are out.